So, ladies, I want to welcome you to tonight's webinar with Simone Vincenzi. I'll give a quick introduction to Simone. Simone was my mentor when I first started on my business journey. I have such a high regard for everything that he does. He is one of the most dynamic speakers, and he sells from stage like nobody else's business. This is his absolute area of expertise. He started from very humble beginnings. I watched him in GTeX grow, and I've always been a good few steps behind them. Simone is an industry leader without a shadow of a doubt. I was just saying before I hit record here that when Simone is doing something, you can rest assured that other people will be doing it soon. He's always got his finger on the pulse of what's happening in the industry. So he is such an important figure to follow. He makes things happen. He's just such an incredibly dynamic person. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Simone. I'm also going to warn you that my internet can get a bit unstable when there's so many people on a call. So apologies if I dip in and out or if I have to sign back in. But now, ladies, over to Simone. Welcome, Simone, and over to you.
It's first of all an absolute pleasure being here. Thank you very much for allowing me the privilege for being here, and thank you very much to everyone that showed up live. I appreciate your commitment. I know it takes effort to just schedule this time out of your busy day, so I really appreciate it. And anyone who's watching the replay, thank you very much also for taking the time to watch the replay. As we mentioned before the call, is just great to see how Denise has been able to grow. There are a lot of people that say they want to be speaker, they want to be coaches, they want to be influencers, they want to make things happen. Very few people do though. And we know why, because it's tough, it is difficult. Keeping that momentum day in and day out, even when things don't go according to plans, whatever we mean about plans, then it's tough. And so I want to acknowledge Denise for all your hard work, because that's what got you to this far. So thank you very much for being an example and setting the example for your community.
Thank you so much. I'm excited about tonight's webinar now.
Yeah, so we're talking about how to get booked as a speaker. How to get booked as a speaker. So first of all, what I would love to know is before I go into the training, because we're looking at a bit of the difference of the speaking industry, how it was before and how it is now. And I'm going to share with you 11 ways in which you can get speaking gigs. And then we are going to look at also answering the questions at the end. So that's what I've prepared for you. But what are some of the intention? What would you like to get out from this evening? The reason why I want to know this, it is because I'm going to go through the comments as well. And if there is anything that I'm leaving out, then I can address it in the Q&A. But also it's for you to have the focus on what do you want to get out from this evening? Because sometimes I'm going to share a few things and not everything will be relevant to you. But the moment that if you just get one thing that is relevant to you and you act on that thing, that's what is going to make the difference. So that's why I want to know. So what's your intention for this evening? Write it down in the comment. I want to hear from you. I want to see that. So then I can, while I'm going through the presentation as well, I'm going to check in the comments. So in terms of, for those of you that don't know me as a public speaker, I absolutely love speaking. I mean, that's why I went into it. I'm a stage animal. I come alive when I'm on stage. That's where I feel alive. And that's also where I started growing my business. I won the award as Best Public Speaker in the UK in 2016 from the ACPTC. And that was a huge deal for me at the time because, I come from Italy. And my background was not business. My background was not public speaking. I used to manage restaurants. And that's how I ended up in the UK. So the only thing I could say when I arrived in the UK was, would you like your steak rare or medium rare? Can I change your fork? Would you like a dessert? So that was my level of English. So from there to winning that award and then doing more than 1,000 speaking engagements in the past 5 years, because that's what I did. It has been a hell of a journey. I was able to sell more than £1 million of product, services, coaching, mentoring from events. And as well, this journey led me to become an official contributor for Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine, the Huffington Post, share the stage with Gary Vee, Les Brown, Dr. John DeMartini, and build an incredible community of speakers, coaches, and trainers, in particular in the UK, but all over the world, where we help them get booked, we help them create events, we help them grow their businesses. And so that's just a bit more about me. And I got into events because I absolutely, because someone said, well, Simone, you want to learn and you want to start your own business, why don't you attend one event? I said, well, what is seminar? I didn't even know there were this kind of things. I come from a small town in Italy, so everything was new when I arrived to the UK. And I arrived at the events in the, I don't know if you can spot me, but I'm the one with the hat there. The one beside me is my business partner. I was very different at the time. I was a big hippie. It was a period where I gave everything away, and I used to live only with what could fit in a backpack. That was about 6 years ago. That was the hippie side of my journey. And me and my business partner decided to run our first events because we loved them so much. After coming out from Tony Robbins' UPW, we said, okay, we're going to run our first events. And that's how our company started. We didn't have any money, and we started running our very first event in Hackney City Farm, which is a farm in Hackney in London. I don't know if you know that, but there is a room called the straw bale room. Literally, it's made with straw bale. There are pigs around. There is smells of poo everywhere. Not the best place to do a personal development event. And no one knew us at the time. So we spent like 3 months of marketing. We got 4 people in the room. 2 people were the speakers. One was my business partner's father. And the other one was the only person who actually came along, which we taped at the chair. We're like, no, you're not going to move from here right now. And that was the starting point. But we loved it so much that for the past 6 years in a row, we have done at least 4 events a month, at least 1 event a week. That's at least. Sometimes I do about 200, an average of 200 speaking gigs every year. So do the math. We had a lot of time to practice and go on stage and figure out what works and what doesn't. And that led us to figure out, in terms of the way we look at speaking and building speaking businesses, about the 4 pillars. That's what we call the GTeX method. So I'll give you an overview of this, and then we go into the specific strategies. So the first thing that we do is to look at that you need to have, if you are building your speaking business, is have a strategy. Because as I'm going to explain later, there are different things that you can do as a speaker. Now, you can be like myself, a speaker that predominantly sell product and services. So will use speaking to grow my business, to get clients. I don't use speaking because I want to get paid to speak. That's not my end goal. Well, sometimes, for example, my wife, she's an MC. She's a master of ceremonies. And so for her main goal is actually to get paid before she gets the gig and she gets on stage. Because she doesn't sell anything, she's there for the organizers. Some people want to go and do corporate training. For example, one of the businesses that we have is a corporate business. And that's my business partner that goes into recruitment agencies or corporate agencies. And he goes there to deliver paid training. So it's not like me that I'm going to deliver things for free and then I sell. Or sometimes I even pay to speak, and I'm going to talk about the pay to speak model later on. Some people will be like, what do? You pay to speak? Well, sometimes I do, yes. Sometimes I pay to speak, but there is a strategy behind that. And so the most important thing is to identify, where are you going? What's your strategy? Because if you want to go into corporate training, there is a specific set of things you got to do. If you want to be an MC, there's a specific set of things you want to do. If you want to be like speaking to sell, different things you want to do. If you want to be an entertainer, different things you got to do. So remember that. Then the other thing that you need to have, which I'm sure you're going to be working with Denise on this, is creating as well a signature methodology and a signature program. main reason why you want to be different. And when you're selling something, whether you're getting paid by the event organizer that puts you on the stage, you're getting paid by the organization, or is the audience paying you, you need to have something to sell, something that is unique, something that is different. Because otherwise what happens, you're just going to compete on price. And so if I have one person that talks about mindset, and I've got the other person that talks about the exact same things on mindset, and I don't see any difference, why should I get one instead of the other? That's what your signature methodology allows you to do. Then as well as a speaker, one of the biggest things you can do is to focus on building your audience. Once you have your strategy and your products, now is about building your audience. Because we're going to talk in details about audience in a minute. But audience, now the speaking industry has changed. And it's so important that you as a speaker not only rely to the audience that the event organizer is bringing in, but if you can bring people to the event organizer, what's going to happen? The event organizers will love you because you can do the most difficult thing that you can do when you run an event. Help them fill a room. Which is, anyone here run already event? Let me know here in the comment if anyone here already run event, because then they can relate definitely what I'm saying. And then the other thing that you can be focused on to be established as a speaker is also your media and PR. Because, for example, even Denise, when she got featured on Forbes, then is a huge piece of credibility that add to you as a speaker. And so the more they trust you, the more you're credible, the more they see that you're influential, and you can leverage media and PR to do that for you, the more speaking gigs you will have. And so this is how we work with our clients. This is our methodology. And this is why it's important to have all the different pieces, because otherwise what's going to happen, if you just have the strategy but you don't have the audience, you're missing the trick. If you just have the signature program but you don't have the strategy, then you've got a great service but you don't know where you're going, and so your marketing material is going to be all over the place. Does it make sense so far? Just give me a yes or a no in the comment if that makes sense, because I'll definitely love to hear that. Does it make sense? Are we all on the same page? In fact, we have a lot of people. Yes, filling a room is a hard task. Yes, for sure. I love speaking, getting positive responses. All right, brilliant. So we are all on the same page. Fantastic. So let's move now to the speaking industry. Like, it's important right now you have an awareness about how the speaking industry was before and how it's changed, because the more you know your industry, the more effective you can be. One of the things that Denise said at the beginning was the fact that I'm a lot of time ahead of the trends. The reason why I do that, it is because I spend a lot of time not just looking at my own business, but looking at the industry as a whole. Where is the market moving? Because then the understanding the inside and outside of an industry will make you a resource for the industry. And therefore you are going to become now someone that people will follow instead of becoming a follower, which is the whole purpose of becoming a leader, which is what a speaker is a leader, is someone that can deliver something really powerful. And it is not easy because it takes time. And if you are at the very beginning in your journey, take your time to understand the industry, become curious about it. If you already have been along for a while in your journey, then as a speaker in your industry or in your field, then it's brilliant, because now you can have way more insights that you had before. So never stop studying your industry. So let's look at the before. Before you're like, oh, I'm a speaker. The speakers, there were not that many. There were very few speakers. And it was like, oh, what do you do? I'm a speaker. I was like, oh, brilliant. That's fantastic. You're a speaker. So you very important person. And then you were making a lot of money because there were not as many speakers. It was something unique. It was something different. And there were a lot of more opportunities. But then something happened called social media. And now we give people the power of having a voice, and people like, for example, Tony Robbins, we have people like Les Brown, Joanna Martin, great people that are training other speakers that inspired others and say, I want to do what you do. And so then the industry changed in this direction. Now, everyone is a freaking speaker. What do you do? I'm a speaker. I'm a coach. You go to a networking event, everyone is a freaking coach. Everyone is a speaker. Everyone is a freaking mentor. So now it's like, oh, what do? I'm a speaker. Another one? But also, you don't make as much money because the market is way more saturated. So now you're not, we are not something special anymore. We are a commodity. And so it's important to understand this, because that's how you need to understand how you can differentiate and how important is your differentiation. Because now in this stage, there are 4 elements that you must have to get booked. Now that you understand this. Before, as I said, you were a speaker, you were going maybe to a speaker agent, and they will book, or to speak to a speaking bureau, they will book stuff for you. Great. But what if you're starting out right now? What happens then? You know, you can't say, unless you're a household name already, hey, I want an agent that books my stuff. I want to go on a speaking bureau. Let me tell you something. A speaking bureau is there to handle demand, not to find you gigs. So speaking bureau will handle the gigs that you have. They will find some gigs only if you are in a household name, but they're not there to find you gigs. They're here to make sure that you get paid more, and they manage your entire gigs, but it's not about finding them. So understand that. A lot of, sometimes at the beginning I was very naive, and I was thinking, oh, I'm just going to go out there and get a speaking bureau to represent me. And unless you've done, like, you won an Olympic medal or you've done something that has been newsworthy for a long period of time, or you hired an household name or created a breakthrough technology, speaking bureaus or agents, they're not going to even look at you. And so it's about us. Okay, how can I build this? So these are the things that you need to consider. First of all, you will be an asset in this industry if you're able to build an audience and bring people in a room. It's not all just about your message. It's not just about what you talk about or how great you are as a speaker. It's about, okay, can you be an asset to an event organizer? That if they put you on their stage, they know that you are going to give them more exposure or more bums on seats. That's one thing. Not the only thing, but that's one thing. Now, the more you will have of these 4, of course, the more opportunities you will have, but you can just have one of these. Then the second thing is your social media following. It's not only about how many people you can bring, but what also the extra exposure that you can give. Now, maybe you are not able to bring anyone in, but if you're able to actually show where you are and give me brand exposure to hundreds of thousands or to thousands or to millions of people, I want you on my stage. Now you become a super in-demand speaker. Think about, like the Gary Vee, think about the Mary Forleo, think about all the speakers that have built a huge audience, and they had a speaking career because the event organizer doesn't really care about them, does care about more the people that they bring in. And then the third thing is actually becoming established as an authority and a celebrity in your niche. So now, of course, we have here Jennifer Lopez, we have Sylvester Stallone. They are like authority, like they are celebrities everywhere. We're not talking about celebrity at that level, but we are talking about in your niche. Can you become the number one in your niche? Or can you become known in your niche? Because you don't only have large events, you have specific events or niche events. And that's, for example, when we are talking about even delivering paid training to the corporate sector, or, for example, getting paid to speak at an event. If you are a celebrity in your niche, which means that you are known, you have even a small following, but people are paying attention to you and what you say, and you have something interesting to say, something a bit different, you will get paid for it. That's, for example, how we are building the corporate side of the business. My business partner, Ben, if you've never seen him speak, let's say he's an experience. I am more, say this. I am a bit more polished. I am a bit more technical, even when I speak. Still very personable, but I spend a lot of time also working on the craft. However, my business partner is like, yeah, today you're going to learn about selling, yay! Like this for 5 hours. Now, he's one of the most hilarious people in the world. Not technically gifted or doesn't even care about spending time learning the techniques. However, for him, it's all about his personality. And that's how he wins things. But also because he decided to build this brand, focus on a micro niche, which is sales training for recruitment agencies that hire millennials. And so becoming that specific, because there are not as many people talking about it, and also because he's a millennial and he was very successful in the recruitment field, it gives him instant credibility now that talks about it, build his audience on LinkedIn, and therefore we have been working with some of the largest corporate trainings in the world. Even if compared to other companies that could pitch to them, we were completely unknown. That's the power of this. And then at this point also become how great you are as a speaker. Now, that's at this point. You can be an average speaker, an okay speaker, an all right speaker. But if you have the audience, if you can pull people in the room, if you have people that want to listen to you because of you, people will do that even if you're not the most gifted speaker. However, then you have masterful speakers like Brené Brown that I have, which I absolutely love, or a completely different style like Les Brown, which I had the pleasure to do an event with, that they are just, you can hear the same story over and over again 100 times and they don't change it. It's always the same freaking story that they tell. But every time you hear that story, it sounds new. It sounds like it's the first time you're hearing that. And if you have that gift, or you become so good at practicing those skills, then also the doors are going to be open for you. So these are 4 elements that will get you booked. You are looking at how great are you as a speaker, becoming a celebrity niche, so how known are you, can build your following, so then people you can give that extra exposure to the event organizer. And then as well, can you bring people in the room? Now, if you have 1 of these, you will get booked. If you have 2 of this, you will get more bookings. If you have 3 of these, you will get more bookings. And guess what? If you have 4 of these, you get way more bookings. So you have a lot of different bookings that there are different ways you can monetize. Does it make sense on the 4 ways to get speaking gigs? So let me know as well. Right now, there might be some questions that have been triggered. Write down the questions and then let me know if we are on the same page. I can move on, and give me a whoop whoop here in the comment if you're ready to move on. Show me some love. The more love you show me, the more love I'm gonna show you. That's how we roll here. We got a whoop whoop. Yeah. I love it. I love you guys. You're freaking awesome. Okay, so now let's see how we can get booked as a speaker. So I'm going to start with these 11 ways. And these are going to be, I'm going to go very quickly through them. And then if you want to know more, then you can write me an email, or you can let me know if you want to learn a very specific strategy on these 11 ways. The bottom line here, what I want to share is that there are so many ways to get booked as a speaker depending on where you're at. If you are starting out like I did, knowing no one, then there is hope. There is hope. So don't give up. If you've been already around for a while and you're already good and you want to leverage more opportunities, then some of this way will tackle what do you do if you're starting out and what do you do if you've been around for a while. We ready? All right, let's get cracking. So the first thing that you can do is actually, for example, leverage personal introduction. And one of the best ways to get speaking gigs is to connect with other speakers. Now you can network with other speakers and you get them to introduce you to another event. For example, this is one example. It was a property event that I spoke at. And it was an introduction from another guy that saw me speaking at an event and said, hey, why don't you get Simone as a speaker? So they made the introduction and I got that gig. So one of the best things you can do is to, first of all, connect with other speakers. The more you connect with other speakers, the more opportune connection you have, the more speaking gigs you will have. Because now, then if you give and if you're willing to share the one that you get, guess what? Other people will share them for you and vice versa. So you can all help each other. That's the beauty of collaboration. That's why you can grow, how you can grow together. The second thing you can do, this is the first one. Second thing you can do is actually to get interviewed on podcasts. And you say, what? Getting interviewed on podcasts? Hey, I want to speak. I don't want a podcast interview. Well, bear with me. Bear with me. Getting booked as a speaker is a lot about credibility and a lot about positioning, in particular for the bigger events. Because at the end of the day, you got to make an event organizer look good. And in a marketing level, if you don't have your stuff together, and if people cannot see that actually you are a person worth listening to, you will still just get always the smaller gigs in front of like the smaller audiences, or you will have to pay a lot of money to go on the other ones. But however, if you get booked on podcasts, there are two things that will happen. One, you will get a lot of Google backlinks on your website. So someone types your name. If you type, for example, Simone Vincenzi on on Google, I think I got the first 10 pages of Google just with my stuff, and there's a lot of people interviewing me. So let's say you have an event organizer now that goes and types your name, because they will do that. And then suddenly you have a lot of people interviewing you. What are they immediately thinking about you? That you're someone worth listening to. And immediately, even if you don't have to see a show reel or something, they can immediately have a feel of your style and hear the way you do. And that's one of the best ways. And on the other thing, the other way is that a lot of podcast hosts, they are event organizers or they know event organizers. So once you've done the interview, you're like, hey, do you like what I said? Yes. I'm looking to get more speaking engagements. Do you know anyone that organizes event where my topic could be a good fit for? Bang. Now, some people will say yes, some people will say no, but hey, you now are leveraging another opportunity and you already created content for yourself. That's the second way. Third way, make sure you have videos of yourself online. Put out a lot of videos, even if they are not great. Even if they're not great. Now, you might be saying, well, but what if someone goes on my YouTube and then they don't like the videos that I'm saying, and then I'm going to not have a speaking gig? Well, first of all, they will ask you for video footage anyway. In particular, for the bigger one, they will ask you, I would love to see you on video. Secondly, you can practice a lot. I mean, the first video that I put out, now I took it down, but the first video that I put on my YouTube channel, man, I cannot even look back at myself. I cannot even look back at myself. I watched the first 3 seconds and I cringe, and then I gotta stop. Otherwise, I'm gonna self-combust. I'm gonna implode. So, but then that was gonna make you also better in terms of delivering presentation, whether you're delivering presentation in the real stage or online. So do that. Do a lot of you will want to see on stage. Well, then you become to eliminate the other ones. But keep putting footage out there, even if it's not perfect, is great, because then people are going to look for you anyway. And also someone is going to look for a keyword. Maybe they're watching the type of video. They are an event organizer. They're going to call you to speak. And I got someone in Mexico. I got a client from Mexico that offered me a speaking gig in Mexico because he found me on YouTube, and he became a client, and then he offered me the speaking gigs in Mexico just because he found a video on YouTube and he resonated with me. And he was a university lecturer, and he showed my video to his class. And it was a video that I didn't even, I think I shot with my iPhone, like selfie mode, and it wasn't even that great. It was 4 years ago or 3 years ago, I think. So video, please. And every time you go and you are and you have a speaking gig, even if it's short, even if it's in a pub, have a camera or a phone at the back. You never know. You can just take a minute or 30 seconds of a snippet, which is good, and that's good enough. That's all you need most of the time. You don't need a 5-hour talk to show. 30 seconds, 1 minute, that's enough. Another way to get speaking engagements is the pay-to-speak model. So the pay-to-speak model is where you actually pay to speak on a stage. So now you're saying, well, my actual goal is actually getting paid. I don't want to spend money speaking. So let me tell you when should you pay to speak and when you should not pay to speak, because that's the biggest difference. So that's, for example, an event that I did. Desogonor runs a lot of events, and this model is you are a speaker and demonetizes the speaker, doesn't monetize the audience. So the audience goes there, is a free event. The speakers pay to speak at this event, and then he spends all the time and money in marketing, and then it gets a packed event, and there are a lot of stands. So when is it worth paying to speak? In two situations. One, if you already know your talks, if you already know your conversions, if you already know that if you go in front of X number of people and you sell this product and this is the right audience, I'm gonna make X amount of money. So now I've been selling from the stage for so many times, or even speaking for so many times, that I can actually predict plus and minus how much money I'm going to make, and how many, if I'm going to make 5,000, if I'm going to make 10,000, if I'm going to make 100,000 from that specific speaking engagement, even before I am going on the stage. Now, it works a majority of the time. Sometimes I'm completely off, but the majority of the time I can be pretty accurate. Why? Because it becomes almost something mechanical, almost like a methodology. And that's the beauty of mastering selling from the stage, which is one of the most difficult things to do in the speaking field, because, you have not only the nerves of you speaking, but now you have the nerves of your rejection. Now it's not someone, if you're selling to one person, they say no to you, that's one no. Now you're getting no's from 100 different people in the room. But after a while, it becomes better, and that's a skill that I will recommend everyone to master and invest in, because for me, it's the ticket to financial freedom. If I'm where I am, it's because I can sell very well from events, and I can sell very well from webinars. I actually did a webinar, just finished a webinar now, before coming on this call, so I'm this back to back, and we were selling a product on the webinar. So paying to speak will work if you know your conversion, you know your product, you know your services. You know that even if you pay 1,000, or even if for a big event you pay 5,000, or for a really large event, sometimes you have to pay even 10,000 down. But I'm talking about the events with thousands of people. Then you know you're going to make, if you pay 10,000, you make 100,000 back. Sign me up. Now, of course, you got to have the 10,000 first. So don't do stupid things. All right. What I'm saying is practice, practice, practice. You arrive to the point where you already have a good speaking business, and that point invest. That's number one. Number two, you should pay to speak if you are starting out and you need video footage. Because sometimes there are events where they will get a newbie speaker to come in and you will pay to speak. But for example, even in this case with Des O'Connor, it will give you video footage, professional video footage, and it will give you the pictures. And so to get more speaking engagements, you will need to have video footage of yourself and pictures. And so if you have also to hire a videographer yourself, maybe you're spending 500 to 1,000 to get a professional videographer to come in, take the video, take the pictures, and so on. Now you pay, and the event organizer will do that for you. So that's the other reasons why, but don't get into the habit, because exposure and videos, they don't bring food on the table. Once you've done once or twice, then you're done. Then you can start focusing on the other free speaking engagement, or starting going for the paid one. And so, but that's where the pay to play model comes into place. And a lot of people discard it. They say it's not worth it. I personally probably spend about 30,000 a year, just between 30,000 to 50,000 a year, just paying to get on stages, because it avoids me to create my own event. They already get the people in the room, and now it's the responsibility of the event organizer to get people in the room. So, and it takes the pressure away from me to organizing another event, which I already organize about 100 a year. But again, when I started doing that, probably about 4 to 5 years, 4 years, where I was 4 years in my speaking career, not before that. In hindsight, I could have done some just for the video footage, because it wasn't available at the time when I was doing it, or I didn't have those connections, but that would be the only way. So I hope that makes sense. Then, so in fact, if you want to learn about selling from the stage, I have a gift for you. You can see that there is the link is going to be at the top. I've created a resource which is called the Selling from the Stage Ultimate Checklist. There is a very long article about selling from the stage, and also there's a checklist which breaks down your pitch. So even if you're starting out, you can practice, or if you have been speaking for a while, now you can use it as well and check it back against your pitch. Or you can send also a text message. The number is at the top, and it will be at the top of every single slide. So I'm going to move on, but those information are going to be at the top from every single slide moving forward. Another way to get speaking gigs is trade shows. Trade shows are a brilliant way to get speaking gigs. And a lot of time you will have to pay for the stand. So then you can exhibit your stand, you can show your material, you have a physical presence, you can use that to get clients. But one of the best ways is actually to speak as well at the trade show. So not just having the physical stand, but speak and then direct the people to your physical stand. And then again, that's another way in which you can get speaking engagement. You can see, for example, the business show in Olympia works in that way, or the Mind, Body, and Spirit as well in Olympia works in that way. You have a lot of other smaller or bigger shows. Sometimes you will have to pay thousands. Sometimes you pay even like 50 or £100 to get there, or $100, and you will have that physical presence and the ability to speak and get people to your training, to your show. Another great way, which I love, is to target the networking events. Now, networking events are awesome for a few reasons. One in particular, if your topic is in business or you're working with business owners, they are there. Two, is that is quite easy to get a speaking gig in networking events. Sometimes you can be a member of a club, and as part of the membership, they will allow you to speak in all the different chapters. So even if you're starting out and you use it just for practice, it becomes huge. In fact, you can speak in networking events. And the other reason why I love speaking in networking events is because if they like in one, now they have multiple chapters. So guess what? They're going to move you from one place to the other and speak in multiple ways. For example, there is a great networking event, which actually, where Denise and I spoke together, I think last month or a few months ago, which is called the Evolve Network. And they're always looking for speakers. They have different parts around the country. I know, Denise, you're probably speaking soon, or you're just spoken recently at another meeting. I'm going to be speaking in another meeting of them very, very soon. So now you can see that you can actually go in multiple networking events. My recommendation, if you want to build a speaking business, use networking events only to speak. So for example, my rule of thumb is, unless it is a very curated audience of networking, I don't go networking for the sake of networking. But I want to go to networking events to speak. Because when you're speaking, you're networking with all the room at the same time. Much more powerful. So then only the people that are interested are going to come back to you. So that's why you can leverage that in terms of also getting clients or getting opportunities. Another one is hosting and emceeing. Now, hosting and emceeing is not like gala dinners or Christmas dinners, is not for everyone. It requires a quite specific personality, in particular because it needs to be quite high energy. You need to be like the life of the party. Having an MC, which is like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our charity bowl of the year. I'm really, really excited to be here tonight. We're gonna have a great time together. Right, you can see that something like this will not work. So you need to actually have quite a bubbly personality. Or if I'm not saying just generally being extroverted, but you need to be able to hold the room and hold the crowd. And if you have that, that becomes a great way as an MC to get great speaking engagements. For example, when I spoke with Les Brown, that's how the story went. I connected with the event organizer at the time. And I noticed that she was bringing Les Brown to London. So I said, well, I wouldn't mind be part of that event. So I sent her a message and I said, I see you're bringing Les Brown to London. I would be really interested in, do you need any help? Can I help in anything? She was like, oh my God, yeah, I need help. Let's jump on a call. Now, at that time, I've already done about more than 200 events. So I knew a thing or two about events. And she said, and I helped the route massively. Like, we restructured the entire event, we restructured the entire crew members, and in the conversation, it happened that I said, well, I'm also a professional MC. I'm doing MC and hosting for events. Now, a few days before the event, her assistant calls me and she said, well, Althea asked if you wanted to be the MC of the event, because now she's very overwhelmed and she needs to take care about a lot of things. So she would love someone to be able to take that stage. That was me. I was like, just let me check 1 second. Of course. And so that's how it happens. So actually that skill as an MC, even if you're not maybe already known enough to get a major speaking gig in a major event, because at the time I wouldn't be one of the main speakers there at all, but I could leverage that skill to actually get access to other events I would not necessarily speak at. And then we're going, I think this is the last one or the last two. One other one is speaking in schools. There are a lot of organizations. That's how I started in my speaking career, actually, because I realized that no one wanted to hire me as a speaker. I wasn't good. I wasn't known. I couldn't get people in the room, and people could barely understand what I was saying. So that wasn't a great combination of things. And so what I did, I started working with external providers, which they hired people, they hired speakers to deliver courses in school. And I started with the first one and then the second one. At one point, I ended up working in 150 schools over the country every year. And that was actually how I was funding myself as a contractor for this company while building the business. And that also gave me a practice round for all my content. And I love working with teenagers. I love working with children. So it was a magical experience. And I still do a lot of work in schools and support charities. But that's a great another way to get speaking engagement, because guess what? My social media following, I was always telling, they were seeing every day I was speaking at a different school. They didn't know that it wasn't me getting the gig and that I was a contractor and so on. But they were just saying me speaking consistently. And guess what? More people started attending more of my events because they actually saw that I was even speaking more. So one thing will feed in the other. And then another one, which is TEDx, can becoming a TEDx speaker can give you great exposure as well. Don't have time to go into many details, but I think it's something that everyone should apply for, because it will give you a huge boost and a huge credibility and leverage more for other speaking events. And then the next one is to connect again and collaborate with other speakers. So where you can create events together, where they are bringing their audience, you're bringing your audience. And so now you're not having the whole workload on yourself and all the expenses on yourself, but now you can partner up. And this is, for example, some of the clients that I partner up with to create events together, because we've been clients for a while. We liked our style and the things that we were doing. And therefore, we decided to create events together. But I do that not only with my clients, but also with other partners, if it makes sense and we see that we are a good fit. And then there is the last one, which is running your own events. So, if no one gets you, that's why we started running our own events. No one was getting us their events. I'm like, fuck it. Pardon the French. I'm going to run my own and get my experience in my way. If no one wants me, I'll get people to come to me. And, it wasn't easy at the time, but that was a very serious picture that I took. I think this was like 4 years ago. At one of our events called Purpose to Abundance that we're doing. And you will have great results, because you have when you're selling from the stage or you're getting gigs. I mean, we got clients where they got a £5,000 corporate client. We have other clients who made like 40,000 in one day, or 54,000 in 4 months just from the speaking gigs that they received, 60,000 in a day, and that's through the ability to sell from the stage. So that's what I have for you, and we are going to go into the Q&A in a minute. So then we're going to look at answering your questions that you have, but you can download the checklist and as well something that I've designed for you. If you want to work together, I'm more than happy to spend a half an hour with you to give you a business assessment absolutely for free, where we can look at the way you run your speaking business. That's complete, absolutely for free. So now we can go into the Q&A. Denise, I'll leave it over to you right now.
Simone, thank you so much, and so, that was prompted me in so many ways. I mostly speak at network events and make money. I always pick up clients at networking events, but you've inspired me to think about some other ways. So that was so valuable. So if we go over to the chat box, there's a few questions in there about approaching podcast hosts. Do you want to look through some of the questions there, Simone?
Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, I can see, and everyone, guys, make sure you write down all the other questions that you have. But do you have any tips for approaching podcasts? Yes, absolutely. So the number one thing you can do is to remember that podcasters always need guests, and that will make it easier to contact them. Because I run a podcast, for example, and I release between 2 to 3 episodes every week, which means that I need to have a lot of people I'm connecting with to get on my show consistently. And every other podcaster, whether they release 1 episode a week or whether they release 3 episodes a week, sometimes they will release 5 or 7 episodes a week, they will always need people. So go on iTunes or Google Play or Spotify, and then put the keyword of your specific niche or industry. For example, if it's business podcast, because you work with businesses, personal development, if you work in the personal development space, health and fitness, if you work in health and fitness, corporate selling, if you work in corporate selling. So whatever is your niche or your topic, then find that podcast. And then go on their website. There is always a form on their podcasting website to apply to speak. If it's not there, there will be the email of the organizer. And then mention, this is what a formula that works every single time. Listen to at least one episode or a snippet of an episode that as when you read through the titles before, you can see that you can have a connection or something different to say about that topic. So you say, hey, I've listened to episode number 150 that you put out. I really liked what Jenny said about X, Y, and Z. I have also different view on this on this topic. I would love to see if actually we are a good fit to be interviewed in your show. Now, this will give two things to the podcast host. One, it shows them that you have done your homework, that you have not just, blasted, pitched the same copy and paste message to everyone. So it shows that you care about them and that you listen. And third, it shows that also you understand what they need, because I'm a podcast host. I've already covered one topic in the past. If you have something different that you want to say about this, you already know that me as a podcast host, I'm interested in that topic. So that's the best way to get on podcasts, and then rinse and repeat for everyone. And, you just apply to say for 5 every week. It might take you half an hour to do all 5. And then you get, if these 5, 1 or 2, they got you in, then you have 1 or 2 interviews every week to do. So it becomes also quite manageable in terms of time to do.
Can I just add to that as well?
Please.
That you will see, if you are connecting with people who are a few steps ahead of you in your industry, you will see that they have podcasts. Just going through social media, you'll see that they have podcasts. And I just approach them and say, hey, I would love to be on your podcast. And I don't think I've ever been rejected by anybody because the podcasters are at all different levels as well. So some of them are just building. So even if I'm not a big influencer, they'll still want me there because they can see I'm up and coming. And, and then the higher level ones can go, reach for the higher level people. But so there's always kind of a pecking order. So if you see someone out there, if you see someone who's been on a podcast, look up who the presenter of the podcast was and connect with them and listen and then approach them.
100%. Totally agree with you on this. And you can do the same with speaking engagements. You have people that you see that they're running events, like they're doing their podcast. Approach them and say, hey, I see you're running this event. Can I speak? And then they will tell you yes or no at that point.
And that's so true. And I remember when I first started speaking, and I've done a fraction of the amount of speaking you've done, but when I first started speaking, nobody was inviting me to come to be a speaker. I didn't know that I had to sort of put myself in the way of being a speaker. And so I found this company called Funzing. I don't know if you remember, but
I remember. We were working together when you found Funzing.
Yeah.
I remember, yeah.
So they started paying me to speak for them. And then people were coming to me going, how did you get that speaking gig? I'm like, well, nobody wanted me. So I just went and found a way to like, I looked for a way in. Where there's a will, there's a way. We find a way in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Funzing. Yep. Exactly.
And Simone's put the link there. So you can link, you can book a call with Simone there. And Elaine has mentioned about potentially being a guest on your podcast. Perhaps she can book a call with you and have a conversation about.
Sure. It depends. I get if Elaine, you have already a six-figure business, yes, but that's the criteria. At least six figures for the people that I interview on my show. But if it's not that, I'm happy to also direct you in the direction of other podcasters that I know, if that's not a fit for mine. I called you next. All right, that's fine. I could call me anyway, but I'm happy to make some introduction if I see that I know someone that's a relevant one.
That's awesome. So guys, get yourself a call booked with Simone if you want to find out more about, I mean, this guy has, he started from the ground up. Nobody gave him an opportunity. He created all the opportunities. So I honestly believe there are fewer people who know more. Everybody's got their place where they really, really shine, and Simone's is definitely with speaking. So
I appreciate it. Other questions that are here? Anyone else?
Anything that we missed?
I'm going to answer a question that I know some people will have in their mind, or if they don't have it, they should have it, which is the on the getting paid speaking market. Now, when I talked about the first pillar, which is the business strategy, is a completely different industry, whether you are like Denise or myself speaking at personal development or business development events, or you're going for conferences where you're paid. Now, the main difference is the level of the marketing material that you need to have, and also how relevant is the message for the corporate audience. For example, if I say, I want to work with the businesses and I work to find like corporate clients that can pay me in, and you say, what do you talk about? I talk about health and fitness. Well, you're going to be in for a good treat, because actually the corporate market will not hire people talking about health and fitness. So you got to see where is the money and where are they hiring. So for example, the corporate market will hire for leadership, for sales, for marketing, for time management. The thing that if an organization spends money on you, they will get a return back. Now, of course, you can say, well, but if their employees are healthier because they move better, then they're going to save cost. Yeah, but as you can see there, now there is a loop that they need to make. So unless it's already a conscious company that is taking care about their employees in that way, then you're going to find a brick wall. So when you're going into the paid to speak market, when you are getting paid before, first of all, you need to have a great show reel. You need to have great marketing material. Know that your message is the message that actually there is a budget for, and then go for it. While if you're going to the business, for example, the speaking side of the business where I'm in, where I can just go in, find an event, getting them to they don't need to pay me up front. But there are way more opportunities. Of course, then you will have to identify the quality of the audience. Some people will have money, some people will not have money. But at the same time, it's way easier to get a speaking gig in this kind of scenario rather than getting something on the pay to speak. So remember, what is your topic actually something that there is a budget for, that is trendy, that is in demand? Because that's going to be the main difference.
I want to add to that as well about paid speaking gigs. Next week, I've got 3 NHS speaking gigs. I left the NHS, but I also left behind lots of people in various levels of seniority in the NHS, and so they've invited me back. And I'll for 3 speaking events, I'm making what used to be my monthly salary just for a few speaking events. So don't discount the people that you used to work for, especially, even if you haven't left your job yet, you may be planting seeds for the future that you can go back and do this. So it was someone contacted me and said, I never would have thought they would have come to me for positive psychology, but I'm going to go in there and talk about everything that I love and share back with the NHS where I came from. So don't discount where you've come from in your corporate job as a potential paid speaking gig for you.
Absolutely. Yep. I've got another question here. I want to start with networking events. You always need to be a member to be able to speak.
Yeah.
Thank you. You asked.
Sorry.
Yeah, I already answered. No, some you do, some you don't. So don't make the assumption that everyone is that way, because for some networking events, actually the selling point is they have external speaker, or they have a member and an external speaker, or they have just members. So look at the policies of every specific networking event, and then if it makes sense actually to hire to join one that can get you speaking, particularly if you want to practice. And even if it's not your target audience, that's going to be a huge value for you, because that's how you become a great speaker. You speak. It's not you become a great speaker by bloody speaking. It's not by doing anything else. It's like by speaking and speaking and speaking and speaking and refining and speaking more. And then one day people will just be, oh my God, you're such an awesome speaker. Like, I know. I want my bottle for this.
I don't want to spoil a surprise, but I will. Simone plays the didgeridoo, and he introduces that.
You can see there at the back of the room there.
Can we have a show from you or no?
I've got the ones that are there are too big for this one. Like I will need to go. It's 7 foot.
Okay. No, that's
So
fine.
it becomes quite a challenge. And my wife is in the bedroom. So.
Okay, no, we don't want that. You guys need to see him speak at some point, because he does such a clever introduction with the didgeridoo. It's fun. If there are YouTube videos of that.
Yeah, well, actually, that's the way I start my TEDx talk as well. So if you check Simone Vincenzi TEDx, and that's actually how I start my TEDx talk. That's how I start all my speaking engagements. Reason why I do that, I always start in the same way, no matter what. I just adapt the message to the audience. I've got 3 different introductions, which I always use. Reason why I do that, it is because it automatically puts me into flow, because one of the moments where you are most nervous as a speaker is the beginning at the end. When you are in the middle, as long as you know your content, you don't have any problem, because that's where you're already warmed up. So one of the things I do, I always start my speeches in the same way, and I always end in the same or in a very similar way. And that puts me the pressure of the nerves out of it, because it's been just on autopilot. And also you can really master something when you do like that, because I know at any point who is going to laugh, when is going to laugh, where to stand, what to say, what to do. And it just happens, the level of awareness, after many times you do the same thing over and over again. But that's the main beneficial thing. That's a side note on the didgeridoo side, and why you will always see me starting with that.
I think maybe just one more question, and then we'll let you go and let you have your evening.
Do you want to read the question?
Yeah, so Monica's saying, do you start with your personal story, or does it depend on the event?
Very good point about personal story. It depends on the event, because, for example, so you got to remember that your personal story is important there, but it's always important in relation to the message that you want to deliver. While a lot of people, they take a speaking engagement and they think it's just their time to share their story. While you don't have to share everything about your story, you just have to share what's relevant. So for example, I have a lot of different stories that I can position depending on the message I want to deliver. One is how I started my business. Another one is when I was homeless. Another story in terms of struggles that I had was eating issues, where I was anorexic, bulimic, overeating, and so on. But you haven't heard those stories from me today. Reason why, the training was about speaking. So I only delivered a part of the message that could connect with you on a speaking level. So you got to understand that your story is not for you, it's for the audience to relate with you and to say, me too. So then you got to think about which part of my story can I select to create that connection with the audience, so then they're going to be listening more effectively in the future. And so, yes, there will be always an element of the story, but it's not always the same. It depends on the topic I'm talking about, and it depends on the audience I'm in. So if it's an audience, for example, that are starting out as business owners, I will talk about my beginning. If it's an audience of multimillionaires, I'm talking about the fact that how I'm managing 3 companies. Different audience, they will need to hear different things to connect with me. So that's the most important thing about the story.
Awesome. And just one final quick one, if we can. Would you recommend speakers training before starting?
I recommend always training before starting, no matter what you do. There are 2 ways to learn. Of course, you have you can always figure it out on your own, or you can have someone else pointing you in the right direction. Having someone else pointing in the right direction is always cheaper and faster than anything you would do on your own. So that's my philosophy. Now, it's important when you're selecting a speaker trainer to find someone that you can resonate with, because every speaker trainer will have a different style, and they're more likely to teach you in their own style. So when you're finding a speaker training or a training company, look at, do I like the way they speak? Because they're very likely to train you in a very similar way. And have that as the back of your mind and your awareness. And then that's as a starting point until you develop your own style. Because there is a point where you're like, at the beginning, most of the time, following the footstep of the person who's training you. And the way I'm speaking now is very different from the way I was speaking before. I was way more similar to my mentor. But then I found my own style. And that replaced the one that it was the imitation. But it was important because it gave me guidelines and it gave me a way to get started instead of practicing the wrong thing over and over again. Because that's the issue. You don't know what you're doing wrong, and you can just reinforce the wrong thing, but you're not even aware that they are the wrong thing. And therefore, then when you have to change it, then it becomes even more difficult. That's why I would recommend to start with the right training, because then you already know you're starting on the right foot.
Absolutely. Simone, a huge, huge, huge thank you. I'm going to unmute everyone. And if everyone would just give a thank you to Simone for his time tonight.
Thank you so much, Simone. Thank you. Lots of value.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for you guys being here. Is hope that you got what you came for, which is my biggest intention. And as well, make sure that you download the Selling from the Stage checklist, or you want a speaking business assessment to help you with your speaking business, book the call, and then we can take it over from there.
Awesome.
Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Simone. You're an absolute superstar.
All right. Thank you very much, Denise, for having me here. Bye, everyone. Have a fantastic evening.
You
Bye.
too.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye, Simone.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.